Jack White has already blessed us with one of the best albums of the year, and now he's seen fit to give us another album. This time around it's completely different really in its tone and its style. It's more laid back, it's more of even a throwback, to be honest. It feels like quite 60s inspired in places, as opposed to the relentless, in your face, constantly exciting album that he gave us earlier in the year. I quite like that he's given us two completely different albums in one year, and while this album's got a pretty lukewarm reception so far, I think it deserves a little bit more than it's getting, because I actually really enjoy this. Sure, it's not quite as exciting or it's not quite as invigorating as what he gave us already, but what he has delivered here is a really nice album with some really well performed vocals throughout as well. I feel like Jack is highlighting how good his voice can be on this album. He doesn't have the best voice out there, of course, but he doesn't have to have that when he's selling some of the more romantic moments on tracks like Help Me Along, where the production feels very, very over the top, but in quite a nice way. The strings are swelling. It's got kind of like a Regina Spektor vibe to it, honestly. But then, you know, the lyrics are quite lovely, and then the closing lines, I think, as well, are some of his best lines on the whole album. The opening track as well, I feel, is really well produced with the pianos on this one. The piano keys sound really, really good. But of course you're going to get that with Jack because he's really meticulous with his production. I feel like obviously on his last album you got the exact same thing where the production really took the center stage, and even Boarding House Reach had some really creative ideas in terms of production. Didn't always land, but it shows that this man is willing to go the extra mile to give you these, you know, really fantastic production qualities on his albums. I mean, it's Jack White, he's really famous, he has the budget for it, so maybe, you know, this should be expected. But we've heard Imagine Dragons and how big their budgets are, and their music tends to sound quite shite, so go figure. I've Got You Surrounded has a bit more of an electric feel to it. The buzzy guitars sound fantastic. It sounds like he's almost teetering on the rock levels of Fear of the Dawn, which I like. If I Die Tomorrow is pretty straightforward in terms of how it sounds. It's got a bit like a Baroque pop feel to this one. Reminds me of something from the 60s or maybe early 70s. Another track that has a really odd feel to it is Queen of the Bees, which lyrically and the way he's singing sounds like something that would come from a Disney film. Honestly, it could easily fit on The Jungle Book or something like that, which is really bizarre to say about Jack White, but that's how it sounds to me anyway. And then you've got the like in the instrumental, in the beat, there's like these like elephant like that pop up every now and then. It honestly sounds like marching animals are coming through, ready to bow down to the Queen of the Bees or some shit. It's so bizarre. In a pretty cool way, may I add. But of course, you've got Please Don't Tell Anyone, which feels quite Beatles-esque-ish on this one. Again, feeling very 60s inspired. Definitely feels like he's touching his inner boomer on this album, honestly. Like some of the references and some of the influences feel way more like from yesteryear than it does the modern day, which Jack White has always been inspired by old acts, old bands. I mean, there's always been Led Zeppelin comparisons with the White Stripes, which you can definitely hear. So it makes sense. Jack White is definitely pulling from those eras. And then you've got Taking Me Back, which closes out the album, which is basically a hoedown version of this. Seriously, I feel like cowboys and cowgirls are doing those like line dances while this song is playing. It sounds completely different to what we heard from the original album. I quite like when artists are able to reinterpret their own songs in this kind of way. I mean, I feel similar about like when artists make covers of original songs and they completely change it. I always find it quite impressive. And of course you've got Jack White doing that here. And actually it highlights how sad the lyrics are, which I never noticed originally because I was just too busy absolutely raging and moshing to the song because it's just such a hard rock track. But yeah, I guess this highlights how I guess delusional people can be when, you know, different aspects of people or different behaviors or different actions can make it feel like, oh, does this mean we're back together? Or does this mean we're getting back or something like that? and then ultimately, you know, it's just all a bit of a tease, and it won't be for long, which he says kind of in the lyrics. Yeah, I didn't actually notice that before. So when you slow this track down, you actually pick up on how sad the lyrics are, and how, you know, that kind of delusion can just make you misinterpret so many things in aspects of relationships. Yeah, quite impressed with how it sounds lyrically, actually. So yeah, overall, I think it's good. I mean, it's not perfect, and it doesn't feel as original as what we might have heard Jack do before, because I feel like he has such a unique angle on rock music. Even when it doesn't always pay off, he has such a great approach to making unique music. Whereas this one feels like very inspired by other styles and other years and other eras and stuff like that. But it's a good interpretation of that, and the songs are good. So yeah, I think this is a really good, solid 7 out of 10 album. So thank you for watching my review. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you agree with me. If you don't, let me know why. If you do, let me know why. Please subscribe. Check out my Patreon as well. That would be fantastic. Subscribing is enough support though, so please do that. Have a good day and goodbye.